Love lives here.
So this year we are working with a theme here at Centers for Spiritual Living of living everyday wonder. I had to look this morning. That's the kind of morning we're having today, evidently. So living everyday wonder. And this month we've been focused on the theme of home. And I want to thank Reverend Victoria for last week's message. And we're focused on all these different areas of our lives throughout the year and really diving in deeper and going in deeper and looking at how we apply spiritual principle and spiritual practice in an everyday way, in an everyday wonder in these specific areas. And so this month we have been focusing and we continue to focus on the theme of home. And as I mentioned a few weeks ago, when we think of home, we think of it's more of a feeling that we invoke or we evoke, right? It's a feeling of love. It's a feeling of safety. It's a feeling of security. It's a feeling of connection. And this happens within us. That's where I talked about love really being love and home is really within us. It more than a place, it is a feeling. And today I want to expand on that a little bit more. And today we are talking about welcome home. Welcome home. There we are. So to get us started this morning on this topic of welcome home, I'd like to share with you the opening poem, the opening passage, the opening of Ernest Holmes' text, The Science of Mind. It's even before the table of contents. It's so beautiful, and you've heard it, I'm sure, and I'm going to share it with you now anyway because I love it that much. So, and it perfectly lends itself to our theme of welcome home this morning. So he writes, "Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and be not afraid. I have left the gate open, and thou art welcome to my home. There is room in my house for all. I have swept the hearth and lighted the fire. The room is warm and cheerful, and you will find comfort and rest within. The table is laid with fruits of life and are spread before thee. The wine is here also. It sparkles in the light. I have set a chair for you where the sunbeams dance through the shade. Sit and rest. Refresh your soul. Eat of the fruit. Drink of the wine. All are yours, and you are welcome." Isn't that beautiful? I mean, he's welcoming us not only into a physical space, but he's welcoming us home into the feeling space of comfort, of warmth, of provision. The fruits of life are laid before you. The wine is here also. It sparkles in the light, or the grape juice, or the sparkling water, whatever works for you. But it's here, available. So the sustenance, the provision, the source of life is maintaining and sustaining and providing, ever providing the love, ever providing the nurturing, ever providing the connection, the wholeness, the perfection, the experience of home. And it's all yours. All for the taking. Nothing has ever been withheld. It's already been given. It's already been provided in the beginning. You didn't have to do anything to receive it. You don't have to do anything to earn it. All you have to do is walk through the door, take your seat in the chair where the sunlight dances through the shade. And it's already provided. How beautiful when we think of this welcoming, right? I love etymology, and so I wanted to see what welcome, what was the meaning, or how did welcome come about? What was the origin of this word? And what I discovered is that it's an Old English word, so there you go. It comes from Willa and Kuma. So then it was shortened to Will and Kuma. So Will Kuma. And what Willa meant was pleasure, desire, choice. So a pleasure. And Kuma was a guest. So it was a person, it was a guest who would arrive that you were happy to see, that you were excited to see, that they were a desired guest, a pleasurable guest, that this was somebody you wanted to be in their company. And so what would you say? You would say, welcome, because you'd be identifying this pleasured guest, or this pleasuring guest, this really happy guest. This guest you don't want to kick out of your house. Let's just say it that way. How's that? Right? So that's how we come to welcome, right? And then we talk about things being welcoming or inviting, that we are inviting something in, or we are inviting an experience, or we welcome joy, we welcome community. So we are open to and receptive to a pleasurable experience of whatever the thing is. And so that is welcome. So when we say welcome home, right, then we look back at the way I defined home before, that this home is within us, and we welcome it. We welcome the guest. We welcome spirit. We are open and available and receptive to the love, to the connection, to the power and the presence of the one life that is expressing itself in, through, and as each one of us. So we welcome that home. We welcome home. And spirit, as so beautifully written here by Ernest Holmes, peace be unto thee, right? I've left the gate open. Thou art welcome to my home. That's also spirit communicating back and forth with us, that it is a way of us understanding that we are always at home. We are always welcome at home in spirit. Good so far? Yeah. So here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we often talk about wholeness, right? We are whole, perfect, and complete. One of the basic qualities of the universe, one of the basic qualities of the spirit, one of the basic qualities of the divine is wholeness. That there is nothing lacking in spirit, that nothing could ever be separate from spirit, that we are always one and connected with and as spirit, that everything that exists is spirit in form, whether we can see it or not, that all of life, all of creation, everything is spirit. The manifestation, the impartation, the emanation of spirit, of life itself. Yes? So we always talk about wholeness, but when we talk about wholeness, we have this tendency to want to talk about wholeness with all the good stuff. God is love, God is joy, spirit is abundance, spirit's happy, right? What we don't talk about, or what we don't often talk about, is those qualities that, while not necessarily qualities of the divine, are qualities or characteristics of our human selves, right? And so when we don't talk about those things, and when we suppress those things come out sideways. And why do we not talk about those things, or why do we suppress those things? Well, this week is a great week to figure that out. Because guess where we got some of that ideas from? Our families of origin, whom we're going to be spending the holidays with this year, or our families, our chosen families, or children, or what have you. And families are absolutely beautiful and absolutely amazing, and there is so much love in a family, whether it's a family of origin or a family of choice. But we grow up, whether we learn it at home or whether we learn it in school, we grow up learning to, or when we hear things like, don't be selfish, you have to share your toys, don't be so needy, don't be greedy, be considerate of others, don't be inconsiderate. Oh, you're being so rude, right? As children, we begin to hear these things and we're like, oh, okay, this behavior, this way of being is not going to get my needs met, is not going to I'm not going to experience safety, perhaps, or I'm not going to experience love, or I'm not going to be lovable. So I will begin to suppress these qualities that I'm being told, or these characteristics that I'm being told are negative. And so we begin to suppress these things. And then what do? We then begin to overcompensate for those things, right? So if I'm not supposed to be needy, then I'm supposed to be self-reliant. Okay, and then maybe I go to an extreme on self-reliance. Self-reliance is a really good thing. Independence is an absolutely wonderful thing. Being an individual is an absolutely fantastic thing. This is what's being affirmed for me, so this is what I'm accepting. So I'm pushing down the neediness, and I'm leaning into the self-reliance, right? And then the neediness comes out sideways. The disowned quality comes out, or the disowned characteristic can come out sideways, meaning it can come out in subtle ways, or it can come out in pathological ways. Whatever the thing is that we are suppressing, whatever it is that we are wanting to make sure is, way down there that we're not expressing, because heaven forbid we should act that way, but even worse that we actually are that way. Right? But what we know is that everything comes with a gift. It all comes with a gift. So I want you to take a moment here and think of somebody who triggers you. Shouldn't be too hard to do. All of a sudden you all smiled and chuckled. So there you go. Now, it may be their behavior that's triggered you. And you want to go, but I don't do that. You're right. Maybe you don't do that. But the quality or the characteristic that is pushing that button, dancing on that last nerve, that quality or that characteristic, my beloveds, because we are what? Whole, is part of who we are. It might be a small part, but it's part of who we are. And if it's really pushing that button hard, like I may have pushed your button, but I didn't install it, right? Dancing on that button. Woohoo! Electric sliding on that button, right? That is an opportunity to look at where that quality or that characteristic resides within yourself. So think of this person. I know you already thought of him. You chuckled about it. So what is that quality? Separate the behavior, because the behavior can be unskilled, but separate the behavior from the quality. What is the quality? Perhaps they're selfish. Perhaps they're needy. Perhaps, I got a great big long list here. Perhaps they're greedy, or they're lazy, or they're demanding, or they're irresponsible. Right? And then ask yourself, okay, so where in my life, or how do those things, whatever that thing is, how does that express through me? How do I express that? So, for example, you might compensate for feeling stupid by going and getting multiple advanced degrees, being the perpetual student, so that you don't feel stupid. But yet, when you see people who you think should be more educated, or who you think should know better, there's condemnation. Why don't these people understand that that is not the way it works? Oh my God. Right? If you are trying to suppress the needy, oh, they're so needy. Oh, they're so incredibly needy. I can't stand it. They always are asking me for something, right? And you may have adopted the self-reliant attitude. All right, so they're needy, but then what that might happen with that self-reliance is that you then refuse to ask for assistance, ever. And so then the suffering that you cause yourself is it's going to be up to me, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and it's going to take me 8 hours to plug this computer printer in, but I am going to do it. I am not going to call my sister. Because if I call my sister, I might be needy, or then she might think I'm weak, or I'm stupid, or I might be a burden because I know she's got so much on her plate that I would be a burden to her. See all these qualities that kind of come up just from that one needy? It's like, right? But when we look at it and we own the quality, you know what? I need help. And I can trust and know that if she can't provide the help right this minute, she'll let me know that. Because she's also a big girl and she can tell me that, hey, I don't have time for this right now. Or she doesn't even have to take my call. She can just let it go to voicemail or ignore the text, whatever she needs to do to take care of herself. And I know that it's going to work out. And you see how that becomes a much healthier relationship because now I am willing to ask for help. I'm not willing to continue to suffer. It's like, oh, poor me. I can't hook up my printer. My sister doesn't love me because she won't answer my phone call. She's doing this deliberately because this is a pattern with us. See how all this goes? See how quickly life can devolve, especially when it comes to family and holidays even, right? Oh no, she's not making the stuffing right. Supposed to be grandma's stuffing. Mom doesn't like sage. Why is she making it with sage? Whatever it is, right? It's so quickly. And see how then we begin to make judgments and we begin to separate ourselves not only from the other person, but we also realize that we've now separated ourselves from the wholeness that we are. From the love that we are, from the oneness that we are, because we are creating this separation, because we haven't owned that I am needy, or I am judgmental, or I am controlling, or I am any of the other I ams that you may have thought of. And so then it comes out sideways. And then all of a sudden, families at Thanksgiving dinner are sitting around the table. Not everybody. I'm not saying that it's everybody. But sometimes families are sitting around the table and, great uncle, whatever his name is, just sets everybody off because, wow, right? There's all this suppressed, unresolved, unincorporated beingness that each one of us is. These qualities are disowned, that we've disowned them, we've pushed them aside, so when it presents, then we get triggered, we get upset, and then everything comes out sideways, and then there's bickering, and kids go to the children's table, and, the gallon of wine later, whatever, right? We go into old patterns or old coping mechanisms. So when you go back to thinking about this person who you've identified and you're like, okay, yeah, and then how does that express in your life? And then how might you be compensating for that thing? Now I want you to think about how this thing could be a gift or a benefit. How can you welcome this back into your life? How can you say, you know what, you are a welcome guest in my life? The poet Rumi wrote this beautiful poem called The Guest House. Many of you may be familiar with it as well. And he says, this being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its future, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each guest has been sent as a guide from beyond. So I invite you to ask yourself, how has this guest that you've identified, this disowned quality, this disowned characteristic, how is this guest bringing you a gift this week? Or bringing you a gift today? This can be fun, people. It can be. Looking at all the disowned qualities, like, oh, this person's really yanking my chain today. I wonder what that's about. Oh, it's that. Oh, cool. Where do I do that? How have I overcompensated for that? Oh, really? Wow. Oh, I really can be a nasty jerk sometimes. Wow. Because once we own it, once we own those disowned qualities, once we accept that that's part of us, once we own those disowned qualities, then we are once again now conscious, and now we are at choice, because sometimes being a nasty jerk can really be beneficial. It can really come in handy. Like, I was sharing with you a few weeks ago, getting across the road during the Mission Inn drive, right? Being a little nasty and kind of being a jerk and holding my own got me what I needed. Because that was the only way that was going to happen that day. Right? But I don't have to be that way all the time. But now I have access to it so that I can employ it as a tool when I need it for certain situations. And so then, once I can own being a nasty jerk, then if somebody calls me a nasty jerk, it doesn't matter. Like, you know what? You're right. I can be that way. Thank you. And then I'm not triggered by it. I own it. And I know that I don't have to be that way all the time. In fact, it's better that I not be that way all the time, right? So it's not about completely, it's not about letting these things run amok in your life. It's about actually owning it and going, okay, yeah, and here is where this can serve me. Here is where this can help me. And we do this, beloveds, with our families. We do this with our friends. We do this with people on the street. We see, things on TV, and it's part of coming together as a community. We get to come together as a community and learn from one another and perhaps push a couple buttons, maybe not the button, but push a few buttons, and we learn from each other, we grow from each other. It creates a possibility for going deeper together and having a deeper understanding of who we truly are, and a deeper appreciation for, and a deeper knowledge and embodiment, a fuller embodiment of our wholeness. So what we're doing is we are welcoming home those parts of ourselves that we have disowned, those parts of ourselves that we have pushed away. We are inviting them back the way Reverend Victoria talked about the prodigal son. We are inviting them back, and we are welcoming them. We are welcoming those aspects of ourselves that we have pushed away, embracing them lovingly, and receiving their gift. Sound good? So I do want to mention that we also do this in community. We also do this in society. So going back to the events last night and the 361 individuals who lost their lives this year due to transphobia and homophobia. When we think about the possibility of the perpetrators of these heinous acts, no, as far as I know, just checking around, none of you are going to go out and harm somebody. You're not going to go out and hurt somebody. You're not going to commit violence. You're not going to commit murder. So if we just say, well, I wouldn't murder anybody, that's not really getting to the heart of it. If we look at what's the quality underneath the violence is some sort of pain. So what is the pain underneath that? Oh, it's a lack of self-acceptance. It's a lack of self-love. So where do I not fully accept myself? Where do I not fully love myself? What does denying my wholeness, what does denying who I am, how does that negatively impact my life? How do I overcompensate for my lack of self-acceptance? How do I compensate for my lack of self-worth, my lack of self-love? How do I overcompensate for those things? And how does it express? Maybe I'm a people pleaser, and heaven forbid I should be selfish, so I always want to make sure that I'm taking care of others and I'm putting others in front of me, always, always, always honoring the selfless, which then makes sure that there is nothing left for me to give because I've drained everything from me. Because selfish is bad, selfless is good. So how am I not loving myself? How am I not accepting myself? How am I not being fully present with the truth of who I am? And how might I be jealous? Because these beloveds understood that they were feeling different in their own physical bodies. And they made the choice to live their authentic selves. How empowering is it to live your authentic self? How empowering is it to know who you are inside and go through the process and the bravery that it takes and the courage it takes to make the outside reflect what's on the inside? That takes power, that takes strength, that takes courage, that takes bravery. And so where might I be feeling like I don't possess those qualities? Where might we as a society believe that femininity is a bad thing? That expressing your feminine self is bad? That the masculine is so good that it becomes toxic masculinity, it becomes misogyny, it becomes transphobia. You see how this works on the individual basis, then becomes the collective, and it buys into the culture. See how this works? So, while we are out remembering these beloveds, while we are doing our work in the world as a community to change the communities in which we live, to change the societies in which we live, we also have to remember that if there is any sense of separation within me, as long as I'm experiencing some sort of separation, not some sort of wholeness, if I'm still denying those parts of me that I don't like, I'm keeping myself separate, and that is continues to contribute to the society in which I live. So our deep work, beloveds, is to do the work for ourselves, within ourselves, but when we do the work within ourselves, it doesn't mean that we're not doing it for others. It means that we are also doing it for the collective. Ernest Holmes, and I'll leave you with this, says in Creative Living, if we want to be free from suffering, we have to stop inflicting it. If we want to love, we have to love. If we want love, we have to love, no matter what anybody thinks of us. If we no longer want to be condemned, then we must no longer condemn anyone else. Without harm, without hurt, we may liberate ourselves and help to liberate others, lifting ourselves by the power of our creative imagination to the consciousness of the omnipotence of good and the omnipresence of the living Spirit. And so it is. So I invite our practitioners and our core council to please stand and surround the sanctuary. These beloveds are in service to this beloved community every single day in prayer. and they are available for prayer after service as well in the prayer room. All right, so let's come together in consciousness. Right here and right now, I recognize that there just is the one power, the one presence, the one infinite eternal that is all through all as all. This one is wholeness, is perfection, is completeness. It brought forth all of life, all of creation through and as itself. Therefore, I know that all of creation is a divine emanation and impartation, a divine manifestation of this one life. This one life is love. This one life is power. This one life is peace. This one life is abundance. This one life is joy. And it is so much more. And I recognize that each one gathered here this day is one with the one. I am one with the one. It is the very essence of who I am. I am inseparable from it. The divine mind and my mind are one. I have access and availability. It is always available to me. I have access to it always. As I know that this is true of me, I know that this is true of everyone gathered here this day. That each one is the emanation, impartation, manifestation of spirit, of life, of love itself. Each one is whole and perfect just as each one is. And so I speak my word for this beloved community, recognizing our opportunity to welcome home any disowned quality, to welcome home any disowned characteristic back into the home, back into the wholeness that we already are. It was never separate from us. We cannot be separate from it. We cannot be separate from life. We cannot be separate from the universe itself. And so we allow these things that we have said no to in the past, that we have disowned in the past, we allow them to come forth in light. We allow them to bring their gifts. We welcome them into our home. We welcome them into our guest house, recognizing them as guests who have come to bring us a gift. A gift of deeper understanding, a gift of self-acceptance, a gift of self-worth, a gift of self-love, a gift of knowing who and whose and what we truly are. The wholeness, the completeness, the oneness that is spirit, that is life. And this week, as we celebrate Thanksgiving, we give thanks for all of life. We give thanks for each and every experience. We give thanks for everyone who has ever entered our path, crossed our pathways, who has ever entered our life, who has ever been part of our life. We give thanks for each and every one. We give thanks for the gift that each one has brought. We give thanks for the love that each one has brought. We give thanks for the light that each one has brought, whether it be through love or through another aspect, reflecting ourselves, reflecting those qualities that we may have disowned in the past. I give thanks for the life and the love that is always and in all ways. I give thanks for the celebration and the joy, the turkey and the tofurkey. I give thanks for the sustenance, the maintenance, maintaining and sustaining each and every one of us. And we need take no thought for it. We simply express gratitude for it all. Resting and knowing that we are home within ourselves, that we are inseparable from it. I simply allow this to be, placing this word into law now, and so it is.
Love